We got a bit of that in the group stage, right? The Cambodians, the Myanmar,
Yes.
the Laos teams, they love that.
it.
They love it. The Johnson Gushin was a huge thing. But of course, we are going to jump into the draft for game number 1 between these two squads. I do personally feel like if you are on Euphoria Esports, you are less worried on not having the first pick because they have such a wide hero pool. But for MHRLK, I think this is a team that is looking to be a bit more reactive, at least for game 1.
Okay, so we're expecting MHRLK to be on the blue side, or like would prefer to be on the blue side if they win the coin toss.
I feel like MHRLK probably would be prefer on the blue side, right? And there it is. They are going to be on the blue side. So first pick for MHRLK, Euphoria Esports on red. I think it's fine for them. I'm more interested to see what the first phase ban is going to be and how important this Mincetar is for both teams.
It really depends, right? Because if we're thinking about Mincetar, we're thinking about people who can dash. So Benedetta, we're thinking about Joy as soft counters, and I think Euphoria, I mean, based on the fact that they're banning out Joy this early on, rather than considering options like, hey, let's get rid of the Kaja and try to bait things out, would mean that they might have access to it, but it's not a lot to go off of just yet. MHRLK Esports, it's interesting because Kadita isn't exactly a very popular ban overall, but generally it's to stop your opponents from stopping artillery mages and more so having a lot of kill pressure when you try to make early rotations in the game.
And both teams are showing a lot of respect for one another, right? I think both their mid laners share the Kadita that was taken up by MHRLK, but the one specifically banned out by Euphoria. They have watched some CY pop off on this hero, they don't want to deal with it. So Euphoria taking out 2 very, very mobile heroes from the get-go.
I think they might even go even further than this. If MHRLK Esports wants, since 1-1 is already done for, they might as well ban out the Kaja. Valentina is gone, so they can't just steal the ult. They can let Euphoria take the Farsa, but it really depends on what MHRLK Esports prefer. Their mid laner in this case. Do they prefer high raw damage from the Farsa, or do they prefer a little bit of lane control, a little bit of hard push, a little bit of team fight preparations in the Eve?
Yeah, I think it might boil down to those 2 mid laners again. And we still have the farmers on the board. Both teams also love this hero a lot. Fanny is the 3rd ban for MHRLK. I think mid lane pool basically blown wide open.
Yeah, mid lane pool, pretty obvious what's going to be up and available. Yep, Euphoria is going to ban out the farmers and they're going to leave it to the artillery mages. But again, EXP laners haven't been touched too much. We've only seen 1 marksman ban so far for the side of Euphoria Esports. So if MHRLK Esports is going to go for the Fredrin opener, they absolutely can. But there's so many good options to play around.
Yeah, you have the Fredrin opener, the glue is going to be the choice for MHRLK. Martis as well, that is on the table. The Kaja, the Arlot. In fact, I think Euphoria in this position, they are spoiled for options.
Oh yeah, I think here they're going to go for Melissa, probably going to pick up their jungler at the same time. If not, they can immediately just lock down their mid laner. I don't think supports need to be picked up just yet, unless they've got a flex pick, maybe in like Cho, possibly.
Not a team that has played much show though.
That's true,
Yeah,
but who knows? Who knows? With
Who
Euphoria
knows?
Esports, their scrims could be different.
I wonder what has Venogod told his team, right, coming into this. Like, because they say that he said that they have done more than enough prep for MHRLK, and this is a series that MHRLK will actually put in a bit of effort. I don't know how much that bit is, but we see the Claude and Eve locked in for Euphoria Esports. So I think, to echo what you mentioned early on, Euphoria Esports going for a bit of that mixed bag, the setup, the utility, the lane push.
Yeah, so they have access to the real-world manipulations, and Euphoria purposefully did not want to actually go for the Melissa this time around, knowing that an artillery mage will be on the opposite side of MHRLK no matter what they do, so they go for the counter pick into Claude. So now they have a couple of options, at least when it comes down to wave clear and good mobility, compared to something like a Beatrix, right? Great lane priority, but can't really get out of Feathered Airstrike.
And it also puts MHRLK in a position where if you want to play artillery, then you are risking this Claw just jumping on top of you, right? I think that could be an option for Euphoria, but MHRLK are sticking with the Beatrix anyways, but they do bring in the Lancelot. They have their own means of mobility.
Okay, so they don't lock in their mage here. So now they're trying to divert. Divert to what, though? They don't have too many enablers for this Beatrix, and I think Euphoria can kind of see that. So I'm expecting the Kaja bans to be coming out in the second phase. Euphoria could also look to lock in their jungler right now, but the Arlet has been wide open since the very, very beginning. So now that they have it, now this is great for Euphoria.
Absolutely. I also am looking at MHRLK Esports. It's very rare to see your opponents pick a mage and not immediately respond with one of your own, right? And in this case, I think Euphoria Esports, is there a chance that they just leave Farsal open because they have ways to deal with her?
I mean, what else could really disrupt their composition, right? I think at this point, Farsa is pretty good to get rid of, mainly because, yeah, even if you are going to be playing Claude and you have high levels of mobility, getting hit by the Feathered Airstrike at least twice in the later stages of the game basically one-shot you. You don't have a lot of ways to kind of deal with that in that large range overall, especially since you're very cautious about how much health you actually have.
It does feel like MHRLK are not too worried about that mid laner. We have all the popular ones have basically banned out, right? Kadita, Valentina, no Farmis, no Farsa. We might go back to the Xavier. I suppose Lunox is also still something that MHRLK can consider, but they themselves, they're going to ban out the Martis. Euphoria Esports still looking for a jungler.
It doesn't really matter what Euphoria plays as a jungler, even if it is a tank jungler, because the Lancelot has so many iframes, he generally gets around the high CC that is expected to come from Euphoria's side. But in terms of bans, right, if they're just going to keep focusing down on mid laners, they've already gotten the big ticket items. I mean, the Kadita is also gone as well, so MHRLK don't really have too much to play in the mid lane unless they want to go for like the Kagura like we saw before.
And they're going to ban the Kaja, right? The only means of catching targets basically taken out. The next best option is going to be the Franco. I don't think MHRLK is going to go for that in any way for game one. I think for our esports, with what they have in the ban pool, I think they are feeling really confident that they have basically shut down a huge part of what MHRLK wants to bring.
I suppose. I think MHRLK needs to ban out Mincetar here, right? Because as much as they would like to have it for themselves, this is going to be the second phase, so Euphoria will have that first pick. That first pick in the second second phase, and it could be controversial. Most people are going to be like, but you just have to play around the King's Calling. There's things like Ling, who's super annoying to deal with, and we all know that Filipinos are generally good and confident when it comes down to assassins. But Euphoria Esports, all right, instead of going for the Mincetar this time, they're going to go for something very reliable in that Kufra. You have multiple dashes, no problem. Bouncing Ball stops the majority of them.
And they are keeping Venogor's hero for last again, and this is something that Euphoria Esports have been doing very frequently, even from the challenge stage. They are so comfortable with just letting the draft play it out and then decide what they want for the jungle. And Kufra in this case does have the potential to not only jump on the Beatrix, but stop this Lancelot from kind of dashing around and accessing those iframes. Yeah,
I mean, they do the exact same thing, right? It's just stopping opponents, peeling away for your backline, and controlling the space, especially with the real-world manipulation. Tyrant's Rage into Tyrant's Revenge, push them back into the real-world manipulation to get extra bits of damage. And now, there we go. That's the Kagura, but they do lock in the Grok, which is great. It opens up the map very easily, and more important, can body block the Kufra.
And Euphoria Esports settle for the Fredrin in the jungle, so big teamfight potential from Euphoria, but I think this game, it feels like there's a lot of weight on Daiso's Kagura, right? One of his signature heroes that no other people have really played as much as he does, and it's, I think, for MHRLK, they're putting a lot of faith into Daiso himself. Then again, you don't really have much more mage to work with.
Yep. I don't know, this is going to be a pretty tough game here because MHRLK Esports are going to be very dependent on both the Grok and as well as their mid laner to kind of set up combinations for Beatrix to punish. If she doesn't have those enablers, it's very difficult to make these plays by yourself. So Euphoria, on the other hand, their composition very straightforward. It's all about team fighting. It's all about getting into the middle of the mix, and if they can do it in tight choke points, they're very likely to win.
And we are going to jump right into game number 1 of this upper bracket. I don't think there's any better way to kick off this best of 3, this challenge top 4, with two of the best Filipino teams, MHRLK and Euphoria, both having their individual storylines. Obviously for Euphoria, they are brimming with confidence to beat MHRLK.
And they got to have some form of confidence if they want to take him out. Euphoria has been doing very well here at the Snapdragon Pro Series, barely losing too many games overall. But more importantly, when we're thinking about the mid laners here, they have the biggest driving force in this game. Without them, their compositions won't work as efficiently.
It's just a fitting way to go into game 1. We already have the first blood. Shizzle got actually going down to CY. If you're MHRLK, you are extremely happy, right? We talk about CY having one of the best stats as a goal laner, and now he gets a head start.
There we go. Okay, so the game pause comes out. That is to be expected. Claude should never die level 1, especially with the battle spells still up. No cooldowns were wasted at the same time. We're not entirely sure whether he decided to take Art of Thievery or the Battle Mirror image at level 1, so it's really hard to perceive what exactly happened. So luckily, at least we know, even though he died once, and yes, he's going to be behind, it was a technical issue rather than I'm just running it down.
And he still has all his spells with him, right? His battle spells.
True.
So nothing really much was given away. Claude can easily recover from it. No problem at all. But I want to circle back and the topic about the mid laners, right? How you say that they are the biggest driving forces for the team. It's just a fitting way. We looked at the head-to-head. We talked about how these two have almost very similar hero pools, barring the Kagura, and we get to see the Kagura in Game 1.
Yes, we do get to see the Kagura in Game 1, and I'm hoping to see a couple of TikTok plays here. A lot of people have been like well, not really theory crafting, but trying to practice doing a very efficient combo at pulling your opponents with the yin yang, overturn with the position and switching with the umbrella and things like that. It's a lot of cool stuff. Whether somebody's able to do it and pair it up with Beatrix is a whole new level because the communication needs to be extremely precise. It's not as straightforward as Kaja. Pull, drag, instantly bend its rage, you're going to get a kill.
Yeah, but a lot of technical aspects that needs to be fulfilled. MHRLK, one of the few teams that I believe can pull it off. And honestly, Gideon, up to this point, whenever I see a Kagura, I still get confused like what Kagura does.
Yeah, she works very strangely, especially for people who are looking at it and it's like, why she feels like she's got a million abilities, but the truth is, there's always a secondary effect. Now, here's when it's going to get really difficult for Shizo God, right? He's going to need a little bit of help to recover because CY is going to continuously have this EXP lead. And on top of it all, CY can be extremely oppressive in this lane. He wants to shove Shizo God back into underneath the turret and then start sieging away at the gold plating.
And MHRLK also sent that Lancelot down bottom already, so you're putting a lot of pressure on Vanguard himself. I'm looking at this Kufra and I'm thinking, what is the role of this Kufra in its case, right? Grog is not a target that you can really crowd control. They will have this scuffle for the turtle. Split already out onto CJ. He's going to drag Vanguard away from the rest of his team, but Kelvin is low. Vanguard, he's in grave danger. Does get the taunt off, but his health pool not looking too good. They're looking for the kill onto Kelvin. Actually finds it. The Eve grabs it, but they do lose Vanguard. Their jungler goes down. MHRLK, a good walk, forcing the flicker from Yoshi God. And MHRLK, now they get a bit of that advantage.
This is getting really brutal here because Vanguard in that entire reaction having enough combo points to actually drop down his ultimate. It looks like the pings aren't looking too good for Euphoria Esports. Hopefully that clears up sooner rather than later. It is an early lead for MHRLK, but not impossible to recover from. It's just a turtle, slight EXP.
At least purple buff did get secure, right? Vanguard had to use the retreat, and that means that this turtle opened up for MHRLK.
Now, this turtle is pretty great for MHRLK, especially with the lead that CY was able to develop on his own. And the fact is that when Euphoria tries to walk up, they know for a fact that MHRLK cannot play on the strong side of their map anymore.
And we also saw kind of the application of NIX, right? The Grog wall is always going to be a bit of a problem for Euphoria to deal with. In these choke points, it does feel like MHRLK just has stronger tools to fight, right? Beatrice, Kagura, Grog, Yoshi God also not able to do too much, just getting basically ragdoll around by MHRLK. They will try to provide reinforcement with using God. Real manipulation is going to be there. Vanguard going in for the knockup, but they don't have enough damage. Even the Praise of Wrath was not able to get any kills.
And this is why I said the mid laners are such a big driving force. These big finishers, Daizo can set up some good fights if Euphoria Esports are really clumped up together. But on Euphoria Esports' side, it's a little bit easier to pull off with Ryujin on the Eve overall. With the real-world manipulation, you can kind of limit the areas you can actually move, and you get a situation that we saw just now in the mid lane where they don't really want to walk into the RWM, but you have Vanguard in there, so you need to make a choice at a certain point.
Can I just say that we have all these new graphics, right? We get to see the emblems finally for both teams. Production have been working overtime.
Yeah, it's great to know that Vanguard actually goes for the classic cooldown reductions on his battle spell. So whenever he has it up, just know that if he does it off timing, he's most likely going to get it back up before a neutral objective like Turtle or Lord.
Next turtle will be up in half a minute, and MHRLK have already started making moves to the top side. This oppression onto the Claude, it's not stopping anytime soon, right? Especially when you already have the first blood onto CY. They will get that recall out from Shizogod. MHRLK with a 4-man gang squad just waiting to take control of this top side.
Yep, and instantly they start moving down towards the bottom side. Based on your predictions in the chat, it looks like 59% leaning more towards Euphoria.
Kufra can jump in, get the knockback. They push NIX into the wall, forcing the flicker out of Shizogod, but Venogod, not so lucky, ends up getting eviscerated by CY. Both the goal laners getting a kill.
Okay, that's not too bad, but the fact that Venogod dies, meaning that MHRLK is going to get this turtle, they can secure it for free because they have Retribution and Euphoria don't. So because of this, we have Headsgod walking up, trying to disturb it, but they're not really going to contest it. They're not looking for a steal. They're just trying to poke the bear and see where the holes are.
Unfortunately, there's no real world manipulation, right? So nothing much that Euphoria could do in that situation. MHRLK gets the second turtle. This is as great of a start as it can get. A 2.5k goal advantage for MHRLK itself. And CJ has been doing a great job in keeping this tank under control.
Yeah, and that's the beauty of Glue, right? Just one of the biggest sandbags in the EXP lane. No matter how strong you are, it's very difficult to commit on top of a Glue, and more importantly, to secure a kill on a Glue.
Oh, and Ryujin also getting pressured a lot, flickering away to safety, and this guy has to recall. Yoshi got not so lucky, committing into a fight that his team is just not ready to back him up.
Yeah, and he also doesn't have flicker, so every time he misses that Tyrant's Rage, it's so brutal for him. He has no real means of escape unless his team is there to bail him out. With bottom side losing that tier 1, now the jungle is under attack.
And top side also, they're going to lose Shizogod for the second time. Meanwhile, Kelvin, he's just messing around with Vanguard in the jungle right now. This guy is sending a message to the person that was smack talking them earlier on.
He's putting in the effort we were expecting to see. But more importantly, I think people need to recognize that the early game is a large majority of the game, right? Because of that one kill, because of that one turtle. MHRLK is able to kind of control the tempo of this match, and Euphoria Esports aren't able to kind of keep up with this type of momentum. More importantly, this type of tempo, because they haven't been able to get clean 5v5 fights just yet. Half the time it's 3v3, 4v4. That's the closest we've seen so far.
And I know during the draft we did talk a bit about how Euphoria Esports has a composition that has mobility, right? You have all these dives, the Claude to the Arlot, even to the Kufra. But I also want to kind of zone in on the last two picks from MHRLK. They had the Kagura and Grog as a response after seeing the Kufra being picked as well. I personally think it's a very great response from MHRLK.
I think so too, because again, as good as most people are going to believe that, yes, Kagura isn't at the top of the list when you think mid-lane mages, what's the most meta, right? Kagura usually doesn't break the top 5.
Yeah.
Personally, for me, I think it's great because with so much CC, so much dive, and more importantly, the way that you can kind of position your umbrella, you're very maneuverable, but more importantly, if you get hit by CC, you can just purify out of it, right? It's not a battle spell, it's inbuilt into the hero.
And I think that's also something that Grog has built into him as well, right? You have all these, it does feel like a neutralizer from the side of MHRLK. So far, all these fights hasn't really gone the way of Euphoria.
Exactly. So it's all about punishing and getting battle spells, right? Step 1, get the battle spell. Step 2, punish. Step 3, profit. That's the entire game plan for now from MHRLK Esports until we start rotating to the mid game, right? Once we get into the mid game, which we're slowly bleeding into right now, you start invading the jungle, and now you're trying to bleed out Euphoria Esports. But the biggest problem is that mid tier 1 is still available.
MHRLK, if anything, have basically established pretty sizable lead, almost 5,000 goal advantage. And they have NIX basically opening up the rest of the map. Euphoria Esports can't really walk up. And in this case, you are expecting both Venogod and Yoshigod to be the meat shields, to kind of be the frontier. But we have seen how MHRLK just shreds them in these fights.
4v4 by Turtle side though.
Gonna try and contest this one. Venogod again brought down low, can't get his combo up with the passive, and he just has CJ sticking onto him. Turtle already secured by Kelvin. Venogod basically just whittled down by CJ. Only Yoshi got left in the front line. The rest of Euphoria cut off by the Grog wall. Now they drop the real manipulation, but Yoshi got has to flicker away, and at the end of it, it's still seems like MHRLK are getting the damage done, but Daiso did overextend and Euphoria punish him.
And that's what Euphoria wants to do every single time. Make a standard play, make it look as normal as possible, let MHRLK make that initial mistake. This 5k goal lead is only going to develop, so Euphoria have to be able to hold out and not lose too many objectives or bleed out too hard so that MHRLK can fall into their own trap.
And the silver lining for Euphoria does seem like at least for Daiso, well, not Daiso, excuse me. At least for the Claude, in this case, Shizogod hasn't really shown up to these big fights yet, right? So we get to gauge his output overall. But MHRLK, they're going to put pressure on this bot tier 2, and there's nothing Euphoria to do about it.
Yep, MHRLK, they're just going to continue sieging as much as they can. Euphoria has no real way to actually counter-engage their opponents other than the real-world manipulation because they're expecting that Yoshi needs to go in first. But since he doesn't, right, Ryuji is put at such a risky position because every time he pops the real-world manipulation, as much as you would like to believe I can't be CC'd, there is still a real threat of him dying.
And that goal lead is just increasing exponentially for MHRLK. 2 minutes ago, it was 5,000. Now, it is 7,000 and it's still going up. The map basically open wide. MHRLK taken all the tier 1s, including that extra tier 2 down bot. They are going to take control of the jungle for Euphoria as well.
Yeah, expect them to do this exact same strategy for every single turn, right? Bennett's rage, push people off, quickly switch on over, make sure that they have Bennett, and they slowly chunk down these turns. Because again, CY outranges these turrets. He can take his sweet time with this.
And what's the game plan for Euphoria in this case? We saw how they want MHRLK to play into them. That's how they punish Daiso. But it's so hard to find these windows, right? Because we are seeing these two teams primarily fighting in these choke points.
Well, I think a lot of it comes down to whether Shizo and as well as Headsgod can jump on top of CY. But at this point, right, CY is really boosting himself as head. If I'm looking at this correctly, he's got 3 items built and he's going into that Winds of Nature. As soon as CY has Winds of Nature, this game is basically locked out for Euphoria.
And the Lord also is going to be a big boost for them as well. That MHRLK completely stopping Euphoria Esports even before they reach the doorstep. And that's 10 minutes in, 8.4k goal lead. We have a Lord that's going to start charging down one of these lanes.
Oh, it's a death sentence already. It's really difficult for Euphoria Esports. Even if they do make really good plays, there's no guarantee that they're going to profit. If they can trade 50-50, it might be good. NX.
Very low. The engage should come in. Yoshi got Clemson on the edge. They're going to try and take him out instantly, but they will also force that flicker from Yoshi God. CJ dragging Benegod back in. His God also not looking too healthy. He flickers away but gets rooted down by CJ. This glue is a bit too sticky, just like the name implies. Daiso goes down, but Euphoria are losing members. His God able to chase over CJ, but CJ drags him away from the tier 2. CY is there to back him up, and his God also most likely will be fed to the Sharks.
Oh man, it was about to be such a good play coming in from Euphoria Esports. They just couldn't get away in time, and as tanky as we see this Fredrin being, his itemization right now, not exactly the best. He only has Radiant Armor, this Molten Core, as well as the Blade Armor. Blade Armor, great stats, but he still needs an Anti-Cuirass if he really wants to tank the damage coming in from CY.
And with that big team fight with MHRLK now has the Lord on the bot side as well. Again, good Tyrant's Revenge straight into the wall. But Euphoria Esports, they just do not have enough damage output.
Well, they do have high ground defense. I mean, congrats to Euphoria Esports. Even though that they're so 10k behind, they're still willing to make plays. A lot of they're very fearless in this sense, but now they're pushed all the way back into their inhibitors, and it looks like this game is about to end in about, well, I would say 100 seconds or so, if not 140 seconds. This next Lord is so important for Euphoria. If they could delay it even for 2 minutes, that would be ideal.
The best case scenario is that they did not lose any inhibitor turrets off of that one push, right? You still have CJ, he has the immortality already, so you gotta kill this Grok twice. And you've seen Euphoria Esports, they just could not really melt through him. It will slowly chip at his health pool though. While that was happening, MHRLK, they have this Lancelot top side. Venogod once more might be blocked off, but well, not really in the correct angle. Overall, Euphoria still able to hang on to this top high ground.
Well, Headsgod, to be fair, has been chunking out Kelvin pretty low there, unless Kelvin took way too many turret shots. The high ground defense going pretty well for Euphoria, and you should expect the inhibitors to start falling once this Lord has been claimed by MHRLK. But more importantly, MHRLK just starving Euphoria out from their base, they don't have any resources to play with, they don't have any buffs, they can't touch jungle camps, and even walking out to clear a wave, they must stick with at least 3 or more.
And both the side lanes are synced up again, so you will have Euphoria needing to divert their attention to deal with the side lanes. And both the inhibitors on the side lanes are also dangerously low, right? You can't go down to just one full wave. Lord has just spawned, MHRLK looking to take control of it.
Alright, let's see how they're going to play this out, because Venogod has been cut off from the rest of his team, but look at how fast they're chunking out this Lord.
I don't think Euphoria can get there in time. You still have the Grok Wall to deal with. They're going to jump in anyway. The Kufra starting off the engage. River manipulation is going to be there. Yoshi God flickers away.
Oh.
They do get rid of CY. Huge kill. But they also lose their own goal laner. Is up to Hitscott right now. He just found Daiso. Euphoria Esports getting the important kills. Kelvin is the only main damage to the left. Venogod could be the target. Blocked off by the Grok Wall. And he still has a bit of health to work with. Gets the taunt off. Hitscott rejoin. Kelvin in danger. Gets the iframe. The ultimate to get away, even forcing the retreat from MHRLK. Euphoria hangs on.
Again, 10k behind, and they still are able to trade up on top of the fact that they got a 2-for-1. Pretty great coming in from Euphoria Esports. Unfortunate for MHRLK because, again, we're seeing that people like Daiso getting targeted down by Shizo God. And Shizo honestly doesn't mind trading against him. He got the damage out with his Blazing Wet, and more importantly, he was able to trade out against Daiso so early on in the match after CY's death to allow the rest of Euphoria to slowly peel back and play for these long, drawn-out fights, which is something that Hitscott on this Arlet will be smiling at.
And also, Ryujin God was able to pick off CY from the beginning, right? Again, big Kufra pushback! We just talked about CY. This guy's out for another 40 seconds. Euphoria Esports, they did lose the top inhibitor, but this defense is going to hang on for a bit longer.
Yep, just shows you where all the gold is invested into Venom. Wow, is Venogod as well as Hitscott going to chase? Yeah, they're going to chase them down. When are they going to pull back?
Didn't get the taunt off, so the chase ends right then and there. But Euphoria Esports, again, look at the gold disadvantage. They have basically contributed to a 4k gold swing in their favor, right? So now MHRLK only have a close to 6k advantage.
Well, at least you can tell where all the gold is coming from, right? It's all under CY. It all came through that early game. Look at the gold earn leaderboard, right? Both Kelvin and CY are the highest earners so far. And Shizzle, he's trying to keep up. Whoa.
Kelvin looking for Hitscott, but no full commitment. I don't think they want to do it. CY is not with them. Both gold laners trying to get to critical mass. CY at this point basically decked out.
Basically max items.
Yeah.
Euphoria is catching up really quick though. 44,000 to 49,000. As soon as both teams hit 50k, the gold league just doesn't matter at this point. And I would argue that even now that MHRLK has technically one extra utility item in comparison to Euphoria, how much that's going to matter is going to depend on the player.
The CY needs to start being careful. He has been caught out in two crucial fights. And that's how Euphoria held on for so long. And we are also seeing the build-up towards the Rose Gold Media for Shizo God. So trying to one-shot him with Daiso, it's going to be impossible for the next fight.
Yeah, it's going to be really difficult here. Looking at the item build so far, looks like we got max items on Kelvin, max items on CY as well. He decided to go for the Demon Hunter Sword on top of the Haas's Claw, so he's going to have more than enough lifesteal to keep himself alive in these interactions. But again, his finger needs to be hovering over Flicker all the time. He never knows where that Yoshi God is going to appear, and not to forget the added range he gets with Flicker available.
And Euphoria feeling a lot more confident in walking up and trying to at least have their presence to contest this Lord. But he's getting whittled down really fast though. Euphoria Esports, you need to look for some sort of steal. Venogod, he's right there! Steals the Lord away! And Euphoria Esports buys some time. Shizo God going absolutely berserk with the Blazing Duet. No kills yet on their end, but Shizo God is alive. NAX basically chipped down to no health at all. Glue does go down. NAX barely making it out. Euphoria Esports once more strikes back.
Goodness. After all of that, like MHRLK, it was a 5v4. Venogod steals the Lord and Euphoria walks away with a free kill. Man, I mean, Euphoria playing from behind, still extremely confident in the decisions that they made so far, but they got so many battle spells out of MHRLK. And let's not forget, Ryujin, he still has Flicker of his own, so he can play really aggressive.
And Daiso has no Flicker. They just sweep him back, bring in the janitorial crew, clean him up. Euphoria Esports basically knocking at the door of MHRLK at this point. the goalie doesn't matter anymore.
Everybody's at max items. We're expecting to see potions in a little bit just to get that added bit of stats to make it help. But wow, with this empowered Lord, they're going to be crushing down these tier 1s and tier 2s super quickly. If they can get an inhibitor to even it up on top side, that would be the most ideal.
Kelvin cut the entire mid wave, but they need to defend this top inhibitor, and it's going to be really hard. They instantly just sweep CJ back into the team, forcing CJ to retreat, and that split basically gone to waste. The Lord still very healthy, and this inhibitor, it is long, long gone. Euphoria Esports cracks open the base of MHRLK, but they still want more. CJ gone on, and basically evaporates. MHRLK wants to find a response with Daiso, but he is down low. Nothing that MHRLK could do.
Nothing they can do, but they're not done just yet. Euphoria Esports has been staggering these waves. First, it was down by bottom side, and they get a free tier 2 here, and now it's synced up with that empowered mid wave as well. This is ideal because if Euphoria, once they get their ultimates back up, yep, they're going to be joining in for another fight to siege down the bottom tier 3.
Euphoria Esports looking for the final blow. Rumor manipulation, not finding any kills, but the pressure is going to be there. Euphoria content with the damage that they've dealt. They're going to go for the reset.
All right, I think it's a good time to reset. They know that MHRLK, all of their battle spells are back up. And now it's going to be the next 46 seconds that we're going to see who is going to win this game. That Lord is powerful 19 minutes in. And more importantly, everybody has maxed out items. If we're looking at damage right now, Ryujin was not happy about his damage per minute in the statistics earlier. 320, don't make me laugh.
Now he has I can't do the math, but he's added 3 digits behind. He has dealt almost 120,000 damage.
Oh man, his stats are going to inflate right after this game, assuming that Euphoria wins. But let's see how this plays out, right? Because if we're talking about interactions, MHRLK Esports, and especially for CJ, needs to find a good, fast engage.
This is not going to be easy at all. CY has been basically the target, right? And Daiso, it also feels like his expiration date has already arrived. Can't really one-shot any target. He just gets focused down instantly. And for once in this game, Euphoria Esports are the ones starting off the Lord. Slowly just chipping the health away. Yoshi God. Might be a chance. Straight to the back, and they found the dive. The target is there. Shizo God just joins in. Let that ultimate loose. They found CY. This fight basically in the grasp of Euphoria Esports. They can try, but Kelvin, he has no more immortality, just wants to get away, and even that is not going to be a possibility. The Winter Trunket only delaying the inevitable. Euphoria Esports from a 10k goal deficit are at the cups of winning this game. He did.
I really thought that the technical issues that they were facing early on in the game might have costed them, but they are showing some veterancy here, playing from behind. And man, that fight was not even close. Yoshi fighting the engage of a lifetime, and they're able to get a little bit more here.
The last 2 survivors of MHRLK are going to be reduced to nothing. 55 seconds for CJ. They have 9 more seconds before CY comes back, but you have to mount this 2 versus 4 defense, which in and of itself is an impossible task. But NIX, he's going to try, throw every single spell, including the kitchen sink, but it is just not sufficient. CY comes back, instantly forced to flicker. They stay alive with the winds of nature, but the entire base cracked open. Kelvin is now back. Can they do something to prolong this game? Shizo got on the crystal alongside Venogod. They've gotten game 1.
Yeah, they just tanked it. They pushed through, and Euphoria, despite a really rough start, recover thanks to a couple of small mistakes made by MHRLK Esports, and they continue to push forward despite being so far behind. Not